So the makeup and fashion world saw a real change at the end of the First World War. What with the invention of compact makeup and high heels and high skirts, women saw the freedom to basically wear what they wanted. And this came about in the 20s and was the introduction of the flapper girl, and that's going to be my inspiration today. It was quite a frowned upon look and lifestyle, particularly in that day, but it soon became, certainly towards the mid and late 20s, it soon became quite a fashionable look for the model and movie star. So this heavily inspired the look of Louise Brooks and Clara Bow, Joan Crawford and Lillian Gish. Yeah, so it's quite a extreme look, but I mean, I hope you enjoy it. And even, I know this look's probably not going to be for everyone, but throughout this video I'll talk a little bit about the history of the 20s, and because the 20s saw a real change for women's rights, particularly in England. So I'll just like talk through while I'm applying my makeup about the history of 1920s, because it was quite interesting, because it was a real change at the end of the First World War, and just like women's rights just generally. So yeah, I really hope you enjoy this tutorial. Now, I think the key thing to remember about the style of makeup shade-wise in the 1920s is most, if not all, of the pictures that were taken of the models were in black and white. So obviously in black and white colour doesn't show up, but contrast does. So basically, if you want to go dark, you go dark. If you want to go light, you go light. Well, not necessarily. I think not necessarily dark, more bold. Because if you have a look at some coloured photographs, some of them do actually wear quite bold colours. So basically, just going extreme in colour-wise and shade. Foundation, I'm going to be using Makeup Forever HD foundation, which is a good coverage, but nowhere near as good as coverage as what they used back in the day. They would often use pan stick and heavy compact foundation. As makeup was back in that day, sort of seems more theatrical than sort of everyday use. So the makeup that they had, and they were so heavy. So I don't have as heavy a foundation as that, but I'm going to use my best coverage foundation, which I believe is my Makeup Forever. So the flapper girls were complete rebels. They challenged and redefined women's roles completely. They basically realised that women are more than just somebody who gives the guys their dinner and gives them two things to stare at. So they would often, you know, go against the grain. They'd often party hard, smoke cigarettes, drive motorcycles, cut their hair short. I mean, I wouldn't say they were like manly, but they certainly weren't feminine. In fact, in France, flapper girls are known as garçons, which is a pun on the French for boy, garçon, with a female suffix. So it's not, it literally means girl boy in French. Now, I don't know if you can notice, but before I hit record, I put soap over my brows to flatten them. You can probably guess why. Basically, the 1920s brow is really key to look. I think it's the brow and the lips. Anything else you can probably get away with, but brow and lip is like a must with the 1920s. I think most people think that most 1920s brows come right up and right down. They did, but not always. If you have a look at Louise Brooks, her eyebrows were straight. So what I think is, to work with your natural brow shape, if your brows are quite arched, make them look a little bit more arched, and if your eyebrows are naturally quite straight, make them look a little bit straight. But they have to be fine, and as you can guess, these bushes aren't going to work with my look, so I have to blank them out. My MAC Studio Fix Concealer, put them onto my brow. And this probably won't cover my brows completely because they're so dark. It's annoying. But it should work for this look. Okay, I'm using a dark shade. I'm using Typographic from MAC. You want to go dark with your brows in the 20s. And as I was saying before, I think it's best to work with your natural brow shape. So if they're arched, make them a little bit more arched. If they're straight, make them a little bit straighter. My brows are sort of annoyingly in the middle, so I'm going to try and make them a little bit arched. Now, if you can't be bothered to blot your brows out, if you just want to take some shadow or a eyebrow pencil and just extend your brow just down and round, you'll be able to get away with a look. Okay, that's sort of the shape you want. I haven't done them completely neat, but for the time being, I think this will do. I'll come back onto it and sort of neaten it up. And once I get the eyes done, I think I'll go back and neaten them up. But that's sort of the shape you want. Okay, I'm going to begin by sort of priming my eye. When I say prime, I mean sort of to give it that sort of natural-looking depthness, which is what the look I'm aiming for. So I've got MAC Paint Pot Quite Natural. I'm going to put this all over the lid. And just really pack it on there. And go right down as well. This is just going to give my eye that natural sort of deep hollow look. So you end up looking like an owl. And taking a soft brush, okay, and that was applied with the Cannon and Ball of the makeup brush world, 217 and 239 by MAC. I have my MAC palette here. I'm going to use this grey eyeshadow. This is called Scene. And with MAC 217, the soft brush, on the outer bit of my eye, I'm going to give that sort of ashy colour. So women's rights saw a real change in the sort of late 1910s and early 1920s, particularly in England. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but particularly in England. Whether it was purely because of the end of the First World War, I'm not sure, but I'm presuming that played a huge part in it. For example, in late 1910s, women were just allowed to be in Parliament, and I think it wasn't until the early 30s, maybe late 20s, that women were allowed complete freedom in Parliament, so the right to vote. So yeah, women were, it was a nice change really, sort of, and I can see why the women, the flapper girls, soon realised that, okay, look, we're more than just, you know, girly girls. We should have a voice, and that's why I sort of rebelled against the man. I have MAC Smolder Kohl here, and on the lash line, I'm going to drag it across quite messily because I'm going to blend it out soon. I'm going to take it down as well underneath as well. Now this black line is really going to make the eyes stand out because this look was made for black and white. Usually the socket around here was made, they often use grey, browny, sort of ashy colours, basically shadowy colours, because this is sort of would create that sort of shadow of natural shadow. The black line around the eye is really basically the eye makeup. it just sort of brought the eye out a bit. Okay, now for some highlighting, I have MAC Gesso eyeshadow. I'm going to put this up on the brow. And the waterline, I'm going to make my eyes look a bit open and wider. Got Highbrow Pencil by Benefit. Okay, now mascara. Now, mascara, how we know it these days in the tube form, it wasn't readily available actually I'm not sure if it was actually available in the tube form back in the 20s. But what they used to do would use petroleum jelly, Vaseline, with a little brush, and they would cover it in soot, like chimney soot, and would coat the lashes in the Vaseline and then take the brush, pop it into this soot, and use it as mascara. So yeah, tube mascara was quite late in invention. I mean, they certainly did have some dupe mascara back in the day, but it's usually just with a brush and some Vaseline or spit. A little bit less hygienic there, but just something for a primer. They would use the spit or the Vaseline as a primer, and then soot or some sort of kohl for the lashes. But I'm just going to stick to everyday tube mascara. In terms of the blush that we are more familiar with these days, and they were little powdered compact blushes, they didn't really have them as such in the 20s. They would often use like a cream blush or even lipstick. And they'd often go quite extreme with their blushes, even though you probably don't notice it in the black and white photos because blush doesn't really show up that well in black and white photos. They often went quite bold with their blushes, and often went quite a reddy pink, like a rosy complexion. I'm going to use a liquid blusher. This is from La Femme. Now I know they often say the method of putting blush on the apple of your cheeks is an old-fashioned look, but this is an old-fashioned look, so we're going to put on the apple of the cheeks. Then with a brush, just buff it in. Now, even though this blush wasn't readily available back in the 20s, I'm going to use it anyway, a powder blush. This is an Alaska and it's Hussy. Can't get my words right. It's quite an intense blush, but I'm going to apply that right on the apple of the cheek from where I've had the cream liquid blush. Really sort of emphasising the cheek there. Okay, now powder, and plenty of it. I'm going to be using MAC Prep and Prime translucent powder. Set the makeup and keep it right in place. Okay, now for the lips. Key to this look. Now you don't have to go dark with the 1920s lips. They often did go dark with their lips, but as long as you keep it bold, then you'll be fine. You just want your lips to be really stand out. I mean, I'm going to go quite dark with my lip. I've got a very number 7 lip liner, it's like a maroon. Okay. I think I'm going to sort of draw mine in, and then I'll sort of talk after I've done it, because I'm probably going to get it wrong. And have MAC Kittenish lipstick. I'm going to go for like that burgundy lip. Now, as unique as the look was, the 1920s flapper scene wasn't the first time this look was first introduced. The actual look was first famously introduced by the French film star Polaire, and she was around before the 20s. She was around in the late 19th century, and she was the first, certainly one of the first women, certainly in the movie industry, who kind of had that tomboy look. She had her hair cut short, which is very, very, very rare for women in that day, and she had that dark, bold, nicely shaped lips, and she put her eyebrows quite high. So yeah, so look, the flapper look was really introduced before the 20s, but of course in the 20s we all know it made it famous. And then with my angle brush, again, a tiny bit of a black, and just go around my lip. To really make it stand out. And just finishing off, just going around a bit of concealer. So this is the look completed. I really hope you have enjoyed. Sorry if I have waffled on a little bit too much, but I hope you've kind of learnt a little bit about the makeup and the style of the flapper 1920s. Yeah, so just to finish the look off, I have a £5 cigarette holder and cigarette. It's fake, don't worry. Yeah, I really hope you have enjoyed watching. Yeah, I will see you all soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.